It's week 16 in the NFL, and we've got fantasy questions such as, you made it to the fantasy championship despite Peyton Manning's last month. Do you bench him for the final?
You've held on to him for 15 weeks. Is this the week Carlos Hyde finally rewards your faith?
When Arizona and Seattle face off, is there a single offensive player besides Marshawn Lynch that you can start?
DeMarco, will he or won't he? And if it's won't, Dunbar or Randall?
All these questions and more answered on this week's Fantasy War Room Live to Tape.
Wolverines!
So when I said the cold open last little loud thing that comes from you should be from the 21st century, I'm assuming that when you're quoting Red Dawn, you're quoting the remake.
Yeah, obviously.
The much beloved remake in which the Russian superpower has been replaced by the North Koreans.
And they were originally supposed to be the Chinese, but because...
Turns out that Chinese people watch movies too.
Yeah, so they actually digitally turned the Chinese army into the North Korean army, and that movie is what started the peristaltic chain reaction that has led to the Koreans, they poisoned me. That started this whole chain reaction leading up to what's going on with the Sony hackers in the interview.
Yeah. All right. Interesting.
So I thought about that for a long time. I thought that was pretty clever on my behalf.
And you cycled it into like a discussion of what's happening in the world like this week.
Hot topics.
That's great. Nice.
Yeah, I got an 80s reference in there, but yet it still was a 21st century reference, so technically it satisfied
and
your
then
request.
brought it into like the current month that we're existing in, which is very impressive on your part.
Once again, I just want to let the audience know that we are 1 minute in, and I've peaked. So I would listen to him and watch me the rest of the way.
When you coughed all over yourself.
I just a little. Was that where did it was Bush the senior who threw up all over the lap of a Japanese dignitary.
That's correct.
Yes. So I don't know. I'd be ready if I were you.
Yeah. It's spicy ginger ale that you got.
Very spicy.
Do you want to get in the rankings, or do we?
Well, let me ask you this: How are you looking? How did you walk away from Week 15, bloodied and bruised, and how are you feeling about this week?
6 teams, 4 in the playoffs. I now have 2 teams left standing heading into championship weekend. So I've made 2 Super Bowls out of 6 teams. That's pretty good.
50% ratio was a high, very successful birth rate 400 years ago. So
it was indeed.
1 or 2 of them made it through the winter. That's amazing.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, I only had 1 team left, and it was looking a little shaky. We were, because of some of the misgivings and unfortunate gamesmanship and bed crapping of players like Peyton Manning and Keenan Allen.
Your nemesis.
God. What did I text you that I wanted a rabid dog to be let loose in his house or something like that?
I don't even. Yeah, it was something actually funnier than that.
It was actually funnier than that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden Sunday night, I'm down 2 points to this guy, and we've each got a couple different players going, and Dez.
Oof.
Just
saves your bacon.
Dez. Oh.
6 for 114 and 3 scores.
In my wildest dream, I was thinking if I get 5 for 90 and a score, I'm in it to win it. But, whew.
That's a nice meaty one to go through as we look in this week's matchups. Philadelphia has trouble covering number 1 wide receivers, so they don't have any qualms about leaving Bradley Fletcher out there on an island, and because they trust their front 7 to get to the quarterback before Bradley Fletcher's required to make a play.
Fletcher Island.
Not so the case when you've got a great offensive line like the Dallas Cowboys.
Indeed. So here we go. So you got 2 left, I got 1 left, and we've got an eager audience awaiting our sage sound.
Thousands of people.
Professional of thousands.
Literally thousands.
Literally.
2,000.
Heck this, Sony. There we go.
That is multiple thousands. Okay, so let's talk quarterback rankings. I don't have any quibbles with your top 3. Aaron Rodgers, Andrew Luck, Tom Brady. They're all away. They're at Tampa Bay, at Dallas, at New York Jets. You can throw on all those teams, especially the Jets. Tom Brady should have a nice one. Aaron Rodgers looking to have a bounce-back week after that miserable game at Buffalo. You're lucky to be. If you have Aaron Rodgers and you're still in the playoffs, then I'm guessing you either have Jeremy Hill, Des Bryant, or Odell Beckham Jr., or some combination thereof, because you're not going to survive that horrible game he had unless somebody else really picked it up.
Yeah, and other guys like Jamal Charles had a terrible week in a game where the Chiefs put up 31 points.
Yeah,
a lot of
that felled one of my teams, one of my Jamal Charles teams.
A lot of people were bullish on Latavius Murray, etc. Andrew Luck even had a very pedestrian week. A lot of people picked up and were trying to ride Ryan Fitzpatrick. He breaks his leg.
That is unfortunate. Did you watch any of the Tom Savage throws? He wasn't. There's a reason they're starting Case Keenum this coming Sunday.
Yeah.
It's because Tom Savage wasn't hit the footballs that he threw were lucky to land within 5 yards of the nearest receiver.
Was he that bad?
He's a rookie making his first quality playing time. He looked real bad. I know he's supposed to be the raw product and whatnot.
Right.
But no.
Did it look like it would be like in one of those old funny movies or something where it's like two kids secretly put something in it so that when he would throw it, they actually could control it and it would fly away from his hand and the ball would just go all over the stadium?
It was not unlike that. It was one of those things that he does not look like a professional quarterback. It's
so bad. So bad. Even though they really don't have a chance at the playoffs, they're still going to bring in the ghost of Case Keenum and start him this Sunday.
Deadspin had something that was just start J.J. Watt. Start J.J. Watt at quarterback.
Dude, that would be... How awesome would that be?
I would tune in. Again.
Try sacking him.
Try
That's all I'm going to say is try sacking him.
He's already getting some offensive snaps. May as well just...
He'd finally get MVP. How about the first guy ever to recover a fumble for a touchdown, catch a pass for a touchdown, intercept one and run it to the house, and throw one as well?
And throw one and run one. And have him run one.
Why not?
Too. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how wild his Wildcat would be?
Just name him the Houston Watts.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah,
I'd
watch that. Number 4, you've got Drew Brees at home versus the Falcons. And I'm guessing that you're hoping Brees will recapture some of that Breesian Superdome magic, despite a 4-game home losing streak, that the Falcons' defense will be what can solve that.
The Falcons' defense has come very close to becoming the defensive equivalent of, or rather, any player that goes against them is sort of like starting anyone who's playing the Jaguars on defense.
Yeah.
They're that bad. Now, I know Pittsburgh didn't explode necessarily last Sunday. The Falcons are a little bit better at home. But Brees was excellent on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns to players that we didn't even expect. We thought they'd be going to Stills and Graham. He got 2 to Josh Hill and 1 to Marcus Golston. Good to see him getting back into action. This one's pretty much for... I think the Panthers will lose Sunday, so this one is kind of for the NFC South. The NFC South.
Hey, Saints still have a shot at getting to 500.
Yeehaw.
Yeah.
How about that? Wow, what a season. Hang that banner. Can't wait to wear those shirts.
Moving along.
Saints run the South.
Although it's worth noting that the Falcons are 4-0 in the division, going for 5-0. So who knows?
Yep.
Who knows?
Who knows? But there are people that this matters for in fantasy, and that's exactly what it should be.
Tony Romo is having maybe the best year of his career. Has kept things going in December. All the crap that people talk about Tony Romo, has had a fantastic year. Missed a game and a half, not even a game. Yeah, because he had the bye week, but missed half a game because of the broken back, and he's just come and accurate, not throwing interceptions, getting a little bit of relief thanks to DeMarco Murray and that running game, good offensive line. Tony Romo's a great play versus a Colts defense that, as long as he avoids Vontae Davis, he should be able to have a good day.
Vontae Davis may be out again, I believe.
He's supposed to return.
Supposed to return, okay.
Yeah.
It's a road game, makes it a little more difficult, and his matchup is a tough one. That's a tough matchup to walk back into.
Dallas is at home, although they're worse at home. So
that's the thing I was going to say. So you've got a Dallas team that's like the Saints. What's the thing with teams down south in the NFC being garbage at home but being great on the road? Saints look like world beaters on the road. Dallas is 7-0 on the road, but somehow they're 3-4 at home. Yep. Romo's got an 18 touchdown to 1 interception ratio on the road, and not that at home. And now this week he faces the prospect of DeMarco not possibly playing.
Yeah.
But can this offensive line turn anyone? We're going to learn a lot about DeMarco Murray on Sunday too.
I'll tell you what. I think you've got Tony Romo ahead of Peyton Manning on this list.
I'm starting him.
And I think you're fine with that. Romo ahead of Peyton Manning, who, let's talk about. The last 3 weeks, Peyton Manning has thrown for less than 600 yards total He's thrown 3 touchdowns over 3 weeks, 2 interceptions. That is, you were looking at your scoring. It's like 12 points, 2 points, 12 points.
Yeah, 12.4, 2.9, 12.6.
At 20,
Garbage.
We're looking at basically less than 9 fantasy points per game over the last 3 weeks. Against a Cincinnati team that is actually really pretty good against opposing quarterbacks in fantasy terms, I'd be looking elsewhere. And
if you're a team that has Peyton Manning too, you got to be thinking that someone either, you probably burned an early round draft pick on him, and you had him all year, and he got you there.
Yeah.
If you've survived this long with him, kudos to you, because you either picked up someone else, like a Fitzpatrick who did a little work for you for a few weeks. Maybe Flacco was available. If you still started Manning and you don't have a good backup, you need help this week, because he may not throw a touchdown.
yeah, the problem is
Bengals defense looks good the last couple of weeks.
So let's talk about some. Well, as we go through this, we'll talk about some potential opportunities to play instead of Manning. I will say the apocryphal Matt Ufford is great at fantasy football story is last year I started Andy Dalton instead of Drew Brees on the road in my fantasy championship. Won. It was the right decision to make because Andy Dalton had decided to have one of his good games, and Drew Brees was pedestrian on the road as he was last year.
Who was it last year when we were doing the program that I started instead of Drew Brees, and it helped me win my fantasy championship?
Oh, you dug deep. It was
a real dig.
It was a reach. It was a young guy.
Yeah.
I don't recall it though.
But I still won, and my team played well. I started Kirk Cousins.
Oh, you had a great. Cousins had a great matchup.
Yes, he did. He had an excellent matchup.
That sounds insane.
That does sound insane. All it takes is a year to make you sound like a crazy person in fantasy.
As we talk about, I'd start Matt Ryan over Peyton Manning. He's your number 7. Ben Roethlisberger. Now, Roethlisberger is one of the top fantasy quarterbacks this year, but he's playing at home versus KC. KC has been terrific versus opposing quarterbacks. The most passing yards against KC defense all year has come from Jake Locker, who threw for 266 yards against the KC defense.
The Hurt Locker put them in for 266?
No one has even gotten to 270 yards passing against the KC defense.
I'd love to see what people's quarterback's offensive output is the week after.
And get this, since in week 2, Peyton Manning threw 3 TDs against them, and he's the only person to get to 3 touchdown passes against them all year long. Since then, they've only allowed 3 quarterbacks to have as many as 2 touchdowns against them: Russell Wilson, Philip Rivers, and Peyton Manning again.
Now, it's a much better offensive line, which is one of the things that we credit the offensive turnaround for. We always knew they had talent with Le'Veon Bell and with Antonio Brown. But Ben didn't have the time to throw. So Mike Munchak coaching up the rebuilt offensive line has been a huge plus for Pittsburgh. But facing KC is still facing KC.
I think he's going to do about as well or better than almost all quarterbacks against the KC defense all year long because they're at home. I think he's good for 250 to 270, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
I'm going to set the over at 235 on passing yards. I'm going to take the under, but I still see 2 and 1.
Yeah.
You're going to go over?
I think he's going to be right about there.
Okay.
I don't think. I think that there's a nice ceiling there, but you just have to respect that's a tough KC defense. And I don't know. I don't love Roethlisberger this week, but sometimes you just got to face it.
But you would start him as opposed to you don't love him, but you would start him.
I still think it's
Peyton,
safe.
it's like, I'm looking for an alternative.
It's not like KC. Well, they have the very good pass rush. It's not like they're turning. It's not like they're blowing up quarterbacks and getting, they're shut down. Oh, only 100 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. They're not the Seahawks of late. They're just very solid against the pass, and there's an opportunity to run against them. So it's a better day for Le'Veon Bell. Moving on, Matt Stafford at Chicago. That Chicago defense, or lack thereof, that team has fallen apart.
Oof.
Man, wow. Oh boy.
Monday
Night Football.
I'm going to tell you what, the theme song of the Chicago defense, in winter it's a marshmallow world. They are terrible.
Yeah. So Matt Stafford's a good start, even though he hasn't really played well. I'm going to go ahead and say all year long.
Yeah. What's the signature Matt Stafford game?
He's had, in previous years.
That great pass to beat Miami?
In previous years, he's had those 400-yard passing games, and he just haven't been that team this year. Number 10, we should note that these rankings were made before Monday Night Football. At number 10.
Just before Monday Night Football.
Just before Monday Night Football. You've got Jay Cutler at 10 versus Detroit. They're not in my top 15. Only Seahawks and Bills are tougher against fantasy quarterbacks than the Lions. And watching Jay Cutler was like, it's like he's football Sisyphus taking snaps. Yeah. He's just like so unhappy that he has to go through this.
I mean, like Jay Cutler at quarterback at this point now. He looks like he's like a pouty teenager who is at the dinner table and knows that mom is totally going to dump this new guy. Mm-hmm. And so this guy's just like, hey, you probably should eat all your vegetables, sport. And he's like,
you're not
whatever.
My dad.
Like Mark Trestman, whatever, F you, dude, you're not my dad. Mark Trestman is whistling in plays and he's like, whatever, you're not my coach. Yeah, I am. But another 2 weeks
He's like, my contract's going to last longer than yours, pal.
Yeah, Alex, I'll take buyer's remorse for $600, please.
All right. At number 11, I appreciate you putting Russell Wilson on the list.
Come on, for the final episode. And also, he does run for a lot.
So here's the thing.
Yep.
Their first matchup, he did pretty well. 211 yards passing, 1 touchdown passing, 0 interceptions, 73 rushing yards. Made it a decent game for him. Here's the thing about, but was sacked 7 times, and the Seahawks are without Russell Okung at left tackle. Here's the thing. Russell Wilson on the road, 12 touchdowns to 1 interception, and 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions at home. So he's actually been a lot better on the road. His completion percentage is 5% higher on the road, and his quarterback rating is 25 points higher than it is at home.
What's up with all these potential Pro Bowlers being so much better on the road this year?
I honestly don't know. And so, again, you have to take the fact that I'm a Seahawks fan with a grain of salt. I do have serious concerns about that Cardinals pass rush getting to Russell Wilson. But I think he's a safe-ish play. I don't think that there's a huge ceiling for him. I think the Cardinals aren't going to let him run for 73 yards again. Mm-hmm. But I give it a yellow light.
Okay. Again, my whole rule is that if I can get 15 points or higher from my quarterback, especially now, we've all won fantasy championships, or maybe you have before, when you even haven't had the greatest output, but the guy that you've played has had a bunch of bums and a few people that have misfired and saved their worst week for the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I always I'm looking for at least 10 points or more from all my skill position players. Basically, I want them to meet the Yahoo, like 9.73, 11.12.
Of course.
So if my quarterback can give me 15 or more, and so my thinking here this week was, who are the quarterbacks that we think prior to Monday Night Football that can give us 15 points or more?
Yeah, and I think Russell Wilson is generally safe. He had a really bad game against San Francisco. Only ran for 29 yards, threw an interception, uncharacteristically poor interception. And still finished with about 12 points, which is bad. I'm not trying to defend that, but
well, it's not great for him, but it's not that bad.
It's not disastrous.
It's not Peyton Manning bad.
It's not Aaron Rodgers last week bad.
Blame Jordy.
We'll talk about that later. Number 12, Mark Sanchez. He's at Washington. Here is my go for it for the week, and here's the reason. Washington allows an opponent's passer rating of 109.9. That's the worst in NFL history, with the exception of the winless Lions in 2008.
Stop it.
Yes, I'm dead serious. I backed Eli.
109.9. That's the opposing passer's rating that they've allowed for the year.
And this is if you look week by week, the only reason that opposing quarterbacks aren't averaging like 25 fantasy points per game is because they've faced people like Chad Henne, Charlie Whitehurst, Ryan Fitzpatrick in week 1 was lousy. And like Eli Manning's 2 games. Last week, 250 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He also had 300 yards, 4 passing touchdowns on a rush touchdown in week 4. You remember that game?
Oh, the Larry Donnell explosion?
And when Eli Manning owns the crap out of you over 2 consecutive games, listen, the Washington football team is terrible at defending the pass. You can start Mark Sanchez. Whatever your concerns about Mark Sanchez are, you can start him. I'm telling you, I promise to you this week, Mark Sanchez is good to go.
And maybe this is also a week where a lot of those the players with some correlation to Mark Sanchez, the guys that have the ties, like your Jordan, we'll get into later as well, Jordan Matthews last week only had 1 target.
Yep.
They were under duress. It just was a very discombobulated effort last week against the Cowboys. But you get down that early, it kind of changes the focus and plan of the game. That's a great call.
Thank you.
Mark Sanchez, that's not even that deep a pull.
No, it's not.
It's a faith reward.
He's owned in about half of leagues right now, but I think you can pick him up. Go ahead and fly with him. You'll be okay. Let's wrap up with the last three. Joe Flacco at Houston. 14. Eli Manning at St. Louis. Tough for him, but should be.
Not a banner week for quarterbacks.
Ryan Tannehill versus Minnesota. It's kind of where I am with those guys. I don't really have anything to say good about them, but nothing, terribly derisive.
Would you start Derek Anderson?
Against
if you hated your matchup and you were like, can he get me more points than Peyton Manning?
I don't, because the Browns are actually pretty good against the pass. And I would start Jonathan Stewart at running back because you can run on the Browns. But I don't love Derek Anderson as a matchup against the Browns this week.
Kyle Orton in Oakland. Actually, Oakland's been competent against the pass, too.
Yeah, not over anybody that we have concerns about, just because that ceiling is so low.
Sorry, folks. Doesn't look like you're going to be able to bail out and get another ship. You're going to have to. That shuttle window's going to open. You're going to get some reentry burn. You're going to sink or swim the guys that you get to the dance with.
Yeah, rough week for QBs. Let's move on to running backs. Number 1, DeMarco Murray comes with a big old asterisk. If he starts, he's got a broken bone in his left hand, so not his dominant hand. We were talking to our resident Cowboys fan, Will. All of his fumbles early in the season came when he was carrying with his left hand, so it's not like that one was all that good anyway.
Sure.
So the Cowboys believe that he'll play, but it's going to be a game-time decision. If you're a DeMarco Murray owner, you need to have, I would say, Joseph Randle on your team. Lance Dunbar is more of a passing down back.
Right.
I'm backing Joseph Randle if DeMarco Murray can't play.
Now, Randall does have 3 times, Dunbar does have 3 times the number of points that he does, that Randall does. So people are obviously going to look when they jump to waivers, and they're probably not even that available at that point. But we still have to wait till Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to race
Which is when the show's coming out, so it's
good
too
luck.
late. Sorry.
I hope people in the West Coast, good luck. Alaska, get them.
We'd like to welcome our Hawaii viewers.
Mahalo. Welcome to the Mahalo room, everyone.
The thank you room?
Sure. That's the one word in Hawaiian I know, so why not?
Apparently not.
I know-ish. Yeah, that's it. I mean, talk about if you're the guy that owns DeMarco, just like, really? Break your hand right before the fantasy championship? I know it sounds so selfish and silly, but
it is, but that's what fantasy football is selfish and silly. Yeah. Let's go ahead and keep rolling. Jamal Charles at Pittsburgh. Yeah, I mean, Jamal Charles, even with a lousy week last week, even with a banged-up knee, a banged-up ankle, and Niall Davis stealing a 70-yard touchdown reception.
Well, one thing you don't have to worry about is a wide receiver stealing a touchdown. So, count on Charles.
And number 3, LaShawn McCoy. The Washington football team is actually pretty good against opposing running backs. Plus, we need to talk about Chris Polk.
Yeah.
Stealing not 1, but 2 red zone inside the 5-yard line or at the 5-yard line touchdowns. I'm getting the feeling that Chip Kelly, even despite his offense, secretly hates us fantasy players.
I think that's what it really is at that point, because even McCoy by now probably has to just be like, what did I do?
It used to be Darren Sproles getting goal line carries, and LaShawn McCoy owners were like, hey, that's not cool. He's the little guy. Why is that happening? And then I think that Chip Kelly realized that was making Darren Sproles owners happy, and he was like, all right, Chris Polk, you're up.
You're up next. That's what all those Jonas Brothers and the hearts and the candy bars he holds up on the giant signs are. That's just his sort of like code for FU fantasy guys.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that actually.
But I'm not. But I'm going to hope that McCoy. This is just going to be a dink and dunk week. Maybe it's I never thought we'd be living in a world where we'd say LaShawn McCoy is a between the 20s running back, but. If he is, I hope he gets enough for a cumulative 10 to 15 at least to validate. I mean, we're not going to validate the pick at this point.
I don't think it's unreasonable to think that he's going to finish, you can expect 80 to 100 yards out of McCoy.
Sure.
And certainly I would say 100 yards from scrimmage. He had a catch or 2.
Chris Polk.
Yeah. Eddie Lacy at Tampa Bay. That's a tasty one.
Yeah, he was the only one to really show up against Buffalo last week, and that's not the easiest team to run on.
And Tampa Bay is much easier to run on.
Yes.
Arian Foster versus a tough Baltimore front 7.
But he's home, and they're going to be starting Case Keenum, so who do you think they're going to lean on?
He's definitely... Oh, man, I started Foster in one of those 1-week FanDuel
Yep.
games, and Foster had a great touchdown run called back because of a borderline holding call, and I was very, very upset about that. Tough break for Foster owners.
Did you end up winning any money?
A little bit.
Did you?
No, I didn't win outright, but I won my money back and then some.
That's good.
Yeah. It turns out, Nick, that I'm actually kind of okay at my job.
Really?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Maybe I should listen more often than just sort of sitting here.
Number 6, Le'Veon Bell, one of the best starts this week. Over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, Steelers record. Against Casey, you can run on Casey. There was
5 yards a carry.
5 yards per carry. There was talk earlier in the year they hadn't given up a touchdown to a running back all year until Latavius Murray took him for 2 on Thursday Night Football. But they're actually that was just a weird aberration. Turns out you can very easily run on Kansas City.
Yeah, and then
if you can't throw on him, then you might as well feed Le'Veon Bell. I think it's gonna be a good week for him.
He's been getting it done through the air too, which surprised me because that wasn't his.
No, that wasn't his game
that wasn't his
at Michigan State.
MOD at all.
No.
At Michigan State, and now all of a sudden it's like Le'Veon Bell on the screen, Le'Veon Bell in the slant. Like, what's this all about?
He has more receiving yardage than any Seattle Seahawk.
That's bananas.
Yeah. That says a lot about both teams right there.
And I think we know how you guys are going to go in the draft when you pick 31st next year.
Oh, 31st. Saucy Patriots fan. You know what? That's better than 30th. Number 7, Matt Forte against a tough Lions front seven. The best defense in the league by DVOA, and tough against the run. I don't know if I think I would actually prefer to run number 8, Jeremy Hill versus Denver. This is what a game for him last week. First of all, 148. He had 100 yards by halftime. 148 total. Only running back in the league with 100 yards.
You met me with that Monday morning, and that was the, oh my God.
Only 100-yard rusher.
I can't believe there was only a 100-yard rusher in week 15. Well, yeah, tell it to fantasy
owners. And
owners.
throw in 2 touchdowns as well. And it's not like they weren't giving Gio Bernard. If you're a Gio Bernard owner, you're plenty happy. You had 15 carries, 79 yards, and a bunch of catches.
You were happy. You were happy-ish because earlier in the year, late last year.
The way that Jeremy Hill has wrested that job, into like, oh, can I play him with them both healthy? To, oh yeah, I'm starting Jeremy Hill for sure.
Big and he's fast.
And here's the thing about the Broncos is they lost Danny Trevathan for the season, and Brandon Marshall, their leading tacklers, out too. So they're soft in the middle.
But wait a second, Pot Roast said they were going to win the Super Bowl.
Pot Roast hasn't been watching his own quarterback play the last couple weeks.
Good. Maybe he should throw left-handed.
Speaking of the Broncos, I want to talk about that after the show. Peyton throwing left-handed, which we used to. I'm not even. There's a segue that is not appropriate for air. Dang it, I can't tell that. But
that's all right. War Room After Hours, guys, live on SOBNation.com.
Ask me about the Special Olympics after the show.
Got it.
Number 9, speaking of the Broncos, number 9, C.J. Anderson, who even when the Broncos aren't really rolling, still got it done last week. Not his best game since he's taken over that job, but still
the ceiling
solid.
was set so high with those first couple of weeks where he'd be getting 3 touchdowns after 3 touchdowns.
It's one of those things where if you're running back, you want your running backs to get you at least to that baseline of 10 points. If he gives you 8, that doesn't break you. That doesn't destroy your fantasy day. It's when you get he left with a twisted ankle after the first quarter, and you're stuck there with like 1.2 points. And number 10, all the way down at 10, Marshawn Lynch at Arizona.
Yeah. It's a tough matchup. Marshawn Lynch is on the season. It's hard to think that you'd ever move him out of the top 7 because nobody runs harder. You can't really count on any other facet of the Seahawks offense outside of Russell Wilson running for 70-plus yards.
Here's the thing. They're the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL by far and away. Even against a very, very tough San Francisco front 7. He had 91 yards and a touchdown last week.
But that was in Seattle.
Roll with
in
Marshawn
Arizona,
Lynch.
dude. Look at this game. This is going to be a much more interesting and probably enjoyable just because it's not going to involve a bunch of people that smell like Old Bay and smoke cigarettes for breakfast. That would be Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. This is going to be like the Southwestern version of a Pittsburgh versus Baltimore game. It's going to be hard-hitting, fast, aggressive.
If Ryan Lindley ever played for the Steelers.
Yeah.
All right.
He did. No, he was the guy that would run out and grab the tee. And now he's playing quarterback.
All right, let's zip through the back half of the top 20. Number 11, Mark Ingram against a Falcons defense you definitely can run on. I like Ingram a lot this week. And
He's actually been the best offensive player for them at home, believe it or
They
not.
really have, and I think Mark Ingram should probably be up around number 5 or 6 this week. Number 12, Joique Bell at Chicago. We've already seen that the Bears defense is dead and rotting. It's not just it's a fresh carcass. It's a whoa. Like can we get a hazmat team on that?
You would think somebody at this point now, like a truck would pull over in the emergency lane and people would like put down cones, stop highway traffic for a few minutes, clean up the mess. But no, everyone's just leaving it out there to get run over some more.
You need to call a forest ranger or something. We got to get some sort of removal team out there. So Joique Bell is a
so
good
insensitive.
play. Justin Forsett at Houston. We've seen it's not just J.J. Watt anymore. That the Houston defensive performance against the Colts. I thought the Colts were going to be good for 30 points against the Texans, no questions asked. Held them to 17, plus a defensive touchdown. The Texans' defense, a revelation.
And that's without Jay Clownfellow, too.
Oh, that's not a nice thing to say about him.
He's Jadeveon Clowney. I just call him Clown. I don't know why. I don't know why. I gave him a fancy name.
Okay. I thought you were
Clowney's a more ridiculous last name.
You're actually right. But Justin Forsett, I think he's been solid all year. One of the top 5 rushers.
I'm not starting him.
Exactly.
He's gotten me here. I'm working with him.
Moving along, Fred Jackson. Sure, whatever. Jonathan Stewart. Actually not useless. Although it is
that's what it says in the lower
actually
third.
not useless.
It doesn't say running back. It's just like Derek Anderson, quarterback. Jonathan Stewart, actually not useless.
You could do worse than starting Jonathan Stewart. I'm not going to go out of my way to pimp him, but like for as much as I hated him at the beginning of the season, when his backfield mate is injured, he actually can do okay with a full load of carries and touches. Isaiah Crowell at Carolina.
You can still sort of runish on them, but at this point now, like if you're Carolina, aren't you just playing 8 in the box, just being like, okay, come on, Mansell, throw the ball back here. Come on, throw it back this way, Johnny.
Until we see a little bit more from Johnny. We went a little bit high on Johnny Manziel last week.
There's 0.0% chance a lot of people thought he wouldn't do well. A lot of people were rooting against him. I can kind of understand that, although I personally still kind of want to see him succeed because
it's fun.
It's fun when it works because you've got a villain. He's like a likable flat. He's like a pocket-sized Ric Flair for quarterback. He's just got there's that panache and flair that just makes you love to watch him because you can't wait to hate him next.
Yeah, no, I'm totally
Let him
with you.
succeed, NFL. Football fans, don't suffocate him and snuff out the Johnny Manziel fire before it gets a chance to rage and make you want to rage against
I hope that he changes the money fingers to the double bird. That's what I want to see from Johnny Manziel.
Love it.
Now that he's a pro, time to go to a pro move.
Love it.
Lamar Miller, Trey Mason, Steven Jackson, and then we got question marks on Carlos Hyde, round out our top 20. And I'll tell you what,
Carlos Hyde, man.
I think it's a Saturday game, so you got one less day for Frank Gore to clear concussion protocol. Carlos Hyde left the game against Seattle after they bent his spine and knee the wrong way and just wasn't going to be coming back. But he ran, I think, 6 carries for 55 yards. He looked tough. He looked better than really Frank Gore has looked all year.
If it's him, and we're going to be versus San Diego, you can run on San Diego. You can't run a ton, but you can run. And, San Francisco's season, playoff-wise, is kind of over. So what are we playing for now? We're looking for some developmental angles. Carlos Hyde, also, as I was telling you before the show, he's going to finally bust out because he used to do his best work on Saturday Night Primetime for Michigan State.
Ohio State.
Against Michigan State.
Yes, that's what you meant to say.
Or Michigan. Yes.
All right. I agree. Let's wrap that up and let's move on to wide receivers.
All right. Now.
And the number one guy is the number one guy who's probably the most hated wide receiver by fantasy owners last week. The Packers were backed up on the 6-yard line.
94 yards.
Jordy Nelson, wide open, nothing but clear skies ahead of him. Hit him right in the hands, dropped it.
And
that's 15.4 points right there, 15.9, 16.4, depending on PPR.
The minimum's going to be if you get 1 point for every 20 yards receiving is, 4.7 plus half-point catch, 5.2. So it's a minimum of 11.2 points that was dropped, or all the way up to 15.5 on one play. That swung championships. That has sent people to and eliminated them from championships. A clear as day. It's not happening this week. Not happening this week.
Let's move on. Des Bryant.
Oh, my man.
He,
Dez.
I'm going to go ahead and say it. If Vontae Davis plays, we're obviously not going to see a 3-touchdown performance again. But he's still Des Bryant. Still a freak. Still going to get his. Mm-hmm. What's the worst you ever get with Des Bryant? 8 points?
Right.
Like 80 yards and no touchdown.
4 for 90.
Yeah.
You know what I'll take? If he can do if he gets 3 for 50 and a touchdown.
Sure.
I'll walk away.
That's also known as the Terrence Williams special before he broke his finger and disappeared.
I was just going to come out and ask. So if on those weeks when Dez gets a lockdown cornerback and they have a big old-fashioned push and shove number 1 versus number 1 matchup, that's often the week that Romo looks elsewhere.
Cole Beasley. Yes, I would play him at wide receiver 3 this week.
Because they've got crappy little linebackers.
So Terrence Williams has disappeared. Mm-hmm. The Colts defense does not have much depth guarding receivers beyond Vontae Davis.
They can't guard a tight end for a sniff or a whiff either. So.
And so I'm going to go ahead and roll with Jason Witten and Cole Beasley.
Whoa, so far Team Ufford is starting the Sanchez and Cole Beasley.
Hey,
and Carlos Hyde. I love this team.
I'm not backing. Again, I'm saying like I like Cole Beasley. I don't like Cole Beasley better than Mike Evans. You know?
No,
but like as at wide receiver 3, if you were looking at like realistically, like is this guy available in your league? Maybe, possibly, absolutely worth a start.
You're projected. You're up against Demarius, and you've got, you may have, who knows? You may have Emmanuel Sanders, and be thinking like,
Yeah, you're going up against Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
Who's, by the way, let's go ahead and round out the top 5, top 6 actually. Demarius Thomas at Cincy, tough matchup, but looks good. Antonio Brown also got a tough matchup versus KC, but you can count on him getting his 32nd consecutive game with 5 more catches. Julio Jones at New Orleans is a juicy one, back from Mike Smith. Mike Smith said he expects him to play. Mm-hmm. And then number 6, Odell Beckham Jr. at St. Louis. We have to stop for a minute and praise what Odell Beckham Jr. has done. His last 7 games, he has 5 100-yard games. Mm-hmm. And the 2 that he didn't make to 100 yards are both 90-yard-plus games. So 7 consecutive games of 90-plus yards. He didn't play the first 4 weeks of the season and still has 9 touchdowns on the year, somewhere between 8 and 10 touchdowns on the year.
I think he's got 9 touchdowns. I don't think he's hit double digits yet, but he will.
And he's about to crack 1,000 yards too.
After missing
since week 5.
Yeah.
This guy.
The first quarter of the season.
If whoever drafted him cut him loose because of his hamstring issues before the season.
He was on waivers in a lot of leagues because everybody heard like he's not going to be playing for a while.
That might be. I hate myself for not having him in any leagues because if you have Odell Beckham Jr., you've had a clear path through the playoffs. Yeah. I was knocked out of the playoffs.
You have no excuse for not making it to the Super Bowl.
I was definitely knocked out of the playoffs by ODB, and there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you this: so, if you're the guy in a league, that league that I told you about, where people were trading players that could get the job done now for people they could hold on to with keeper value, and you traded Odell Beckham Jr. 4 weeks ago for Julio Jones, are you kicking yourself?
Well, yeah.
But Julio Jones had those 2 huge weeks and helped you win.
If you trade Odell Beckham Jr. for anybody, you're kicking yourself.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's a world beater. Let's move on. Alshon Jeffrey versus Detroit. No thanks.
No, after what? After this week's Monday night game?
It's you can't even sell on the Bears. You're not even going to get pennies for them. You might as well just throw them out with the rest of the garbage.
I have to leave them on the door. Someone's going to pick them up. It's free.
Yeah.
One man's trash, another man's treasure.
Sure. Or the garbage
maybe
man.
You know what? You're going to take a chance. Maybe this sofa doesn't have bed bugs. I'll pick it up. It's out there. It
What's the worst could happen?
It hasn't rained in 3 days. I know Thursday's garbage day.
Randall Cobb at Tampa Bay, I like very much. Mike Evans versus Green Bay, I like very much. You can definitely throw on the Packers. And Mike Evans is just, even when he doesn't accrue the yardage, he is the red zone target for Josh McCown. Went to McCowntown in the end zone last week.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
We didn't talk about him under quarterbacks, and that's a good reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, the quality of life in McCowntown right now, like you're greeted in McCowntown just by one of those pieces of plywood turned to the side. It's spray painted, "Welcome to McCowntown," and then there's just like 2 barrels on fire.
It's like one of it's like one of those nice islands near Thailand or the Philippines where you go there and everything's cheap.
McCowntown.
McCowntown. Oh my God. You go there, everything's cheap. The water's nice and clear. You have the greatest vacation of your life, and then you leave, and a week later you hear that it's been destroyed by a tsunami, and you're like, oh.
Oh, right. But then also one of your credit cards was cloned, and you're like, oh, McCown Town! I think didn't Kurt Russell fly into McCown Town to save the president? Mm-hmm. In that movie, Escape from McCown Town?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There is no escape from McCown Town.
Number 10, T.Y. Hilton versus Dallas. Number 11, Jeremy Maclin at Washington has my big green light. I've already made my case for starting your quarterbacks and wide receivers going up against that Washington team.
And that makes me think that I should have probably sleeper valued or even bumped into the very end of the rankings Jordan Matthews, who was kept out of things last week. But
I agree. I think Jordan Matthews is a great play this week. A.J. Green is going to get some Aqib Talib action versus Denver. Tough matchup for him. And a quarterback who does not do well under pressure will be facing, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be tough sledding for A.J. Green, but you're not going to bench him. Manny Sanders at Cincinnati. Yep. Mm-hmm. Roddy White at New Orleans. Yep.
Welcome back. Good to see. Yeah, good to see that what we all thought we were going to see after Hard Knocks wasn't a joke. Roddy White's, by and large, had a very good season.
Yeah, he really has. Yeah. He really has been the rock for that team because he's been healthy all season, has filled in when Julio Jones has been out, and it's just been a solid 1A option.
4 for 46 and a touchdown, or 8 for 80, 10 for 107. I'll take again hitting that. You hit that 10-point high water mark for fantasy. I am totally fine. As we head into the bottom half of the wide receivers,
DeAndre Hopkins versus Baltimore is heartbreaking because DeAndre Hopkins has been a fairly reliable wide receiver 2 all year long, and then you give him the Case Keenum.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's because the Baltimore secondary, you can feast on them.
That's the mumps of fantasy.
If you have a quarterback who can stand up to a little bit of pressure, because the front seven of Baltimore brings the pressure, your wide receivers will get free versus the shoddy and injured Baltimore secondary. But then you throw Case Keenum into the mix, and that's not going to happen. Rough week for DeAndre Hopkins ahead.
It may be. Although he looked his way a lot towards. Maybe he's going to lean on Andre Johnson. We're not sure. The whole passing attack down there is weird. But DeAndre Hopkins, we can both probably agree, if Case Keenum's going to connect at all, he has the higher ceiling this week.
I agree. Then the final 5: Kelvin Benjamin, Jarvis Landry, Julian Edelman versus the Jets.
My boy, every week.
He gets it done.
I know. I don't know how to rank him higher, but he's just been great.
PPR machine, and also kind of a nose for the end zone, too. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Kenny Stills versus Atlanta. Kind of a quiet performance for him against the Bears when they went to
Josh Hill.
Josh Hill and Marcus Colston.
Toon caught one. Colston was in the action. The one I was going to say was Jarvis Landry. Obviously, the LSU wide receiver products were fantastic this year. But Jarvis Landry really impressed me. He got open against Revis a couple times, not just by luck, not just out of design, just sheer will and talent. And even though I know Minnesota's secondary has been hard-hitting and really clamped down the last couple of weeks, I like him. I like him enough. He's won Tannehill's trust.
Especially if you have a PPR league of at least half a point, he's had at least 5 catches in 7 consecutive games.
I'd start him.
I would too.
Over Mike Wallace this week because you can't always look for the deep ball, especially against Minnesota, but you can look for the PPR.
All right, I'm with you. All right. So that, any wide receiver sleepers before we move on?
Jordan Matthews.
All right, I like that too. Let's move on to tight ends. Number 1 is a no-brainer, Rob Gronkowski versus the Jets. Fantastic second half, 3 catches, 96 yards, touchdown, opened up that offense.
How about, and it was those seam routes.
Perfect passes from Tom Brady down the seam, off of play action.
Brady can't throw the deep ball anymore, but he can throw that seam route like an M word.
Yo sluggo. Jimmy Graham versus Atlanta.
Jimmy Graham was surprisingly not as involved. I mean, Josh Hill got the touchdown.
He's really...
is he banged up? Is he hurt worse than we think?
I have no idea. I have to guess that that's what the problem is.
Right.
And also teams are forcing the Saints, saying like, we're taking away Jimmy Graham, we're going to make you beat us with other guys. And that's what the Steelers did, and they did beat them. Mm-hmm. But
I don't think Atlanta has the tools, and by tools I mean manpower, to be able to double team, to bracket, or take away Jimmy Graham.
I'm in agreement. Martellus Bennett, on fantastic all year, but the Lions are a tough matchup. Greg Olsen versus Cleveland, okay.
Right?
Yeah. And then Julius Thomas at Cincinnati. And I would think with the way that Peyton Manning is throwing, which is to say duckish short passes,
right.
I would think that Julius Thomas is where he's going to look. The shorter crossing routes to Demarius Thomas, shorter passes over the middle to Julius Thomas. Basically just short passes.
A lot of short passes on a cold Monday night with an aggressive, angry Cincinnati defense that's playing to maintain control, because you can pretty much count on Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
And
I think
here's
Pittsburgh
the thing,
and Baltimore
especially losing Vontez Burfict for the season definitely opens things up for Thomas a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that one. Jason Witten versus Indianapolis. Yes,
he might be this. I was going to say, if we're going to bump down Martellus Bennett a couple of notches, I think Witten
it's
can
a strong
jump up
play.
a few. Yeah.
The Colts defense is not anything to write home about unless you're writing home to talk about easy things.
I still don't know why you write home, but that's cool.
It's an email.
Is that an old military thing?
I did send a lot of letters in 2003 because we didn't have Wi-Fi capability. But
right. Yeah, tanks don't usually come with. Yeah.
No, they're not.
Tanks don't usually come.
They do not have internet access. This tank is a mobile hotspot. Antonio Gates versus San Francisco. Yeah, he bounced back. Antonio Gates is back.
Well, again
for the 17th time. Kobe Fleener versus Dallas. Of course, they now have two tight ends who are healthy again with the return of Allen.
So will it be the Dwalin or the Kofleen? Who knows? I think it's going to be a Kobe Fleener week. Again, Dallas is top 5 in allowing points to fantasy tight ends.
I think if
I see them throwing all day.
If the Cowboys go to Cole Beasley, the Colts' only possible response is like, with white guy with longish blonde hair, their only answer is Kobe Fleener.
We see your tiny surfer dude and raise you a brohemoth.
Yep, exactly.
Kobe Fleener looks like
Travis
such a weirdo.
Kelce at Pittsburgh. Travis Kelce finally having the kind of game that I've been begging him to have.
Welcome back.
60-odd yards and a touchdown, I believe.
Yeah. All he has to do, he doesn't even have to wear number 87. It just needs to say on the back of his jersey, not a wide receiver.
I will say this, and I know we're not talking about wide receivers right now. I'm going to say I think this is the week that a Kansas City wide receiver finally catches a touchdown pass.
Stop it.
The Steelers' defense is prone to giving up touchdowns to receivers. I think that their secondary has just been decimated.
Yeah, Harry Douglas looked good last week against them. Devin Hester scored against them.
I think
Roddy
this is
White scored against them.
Dwayne Bowe finally comes out of the cold and gets a touchdown this week.
And are you telling people that they should possibly consider garbage starting? Or like Sunday at 12:37, grabbing Dwayne Bowe.
If you're in desperation mode, if you've been hit by injuries, if you're worried about matchups, I'd roll with Dwayne Bowe this week. Wow. Again, this is I'm talking wide receiver 3 flex.
Listen, dude. Sometimes you're projected to lose by 40. You gotta go Butch and Sundance. You gotta shoot your way out of the album.
Yeah. We shouldn't mention that Butch and Sundance died in that shootout, but
we don't know.
Still, you got to go out guns blazing.
We don't know. It freezes on them.
It's true.
I think.
They went out with smiles.
Spoiler alert,
Zach
they were
Ertz
smiling.
at Washington. Sure. And then our last 5, Heath Miller, Owen Daniels, Tim Wright, secret good play at the Jets. Jermaine Gresham versus Denver. Yeah, possibly against
over the middle with
the middle linebackers.
Brandon Marshall and Dan Gervais out.
Yeah, I think that Jermaine Gresham could be a decent play. And then Jordan Reed versus Philly.
He only had 3 catches last week for 40 yards, and I know he had a much deeper connection with Colt McCoy. And even with Kirk Cousins, that was more the Niles Paul time than he does with RG3.
I think RG3 and Reed played together a little bit last season before.
I think the haters and the media have a deeper connection with RG3, but whatever. Whatever.
The haters, Paul. All right, so let's move on and finally talk about defenses.
Yeah.
This is a really intriguing week for defenses in that I don't think there's really a waiver wire free agent pickup to make for defense. You've got some serious heavyweights going up against some kind of crappy offenses.
We got some cream cheese matchups. And we always say, start whoever's playing Jacksonville. You're not going to fantasy Super Bowl it
with the Tennessee Titans on Thursday night.
No.
I mean, like...
Are you grabbing Philadelphia to play Washington? You don't know. You saw how terrible they were last week.
No, I would... here's the thing, though. If only an idiot would have dropped Philadelphia. Like Philadelphia is I think the top defensive special teams unit in case they've scored so many touchdowns. So you're not going to drop Philadelphia. They're still getting it done. They still have a very good front seven. I think that's a good play. But number one, and I think even a non-Seahawks fans can agree with this one, the Seattle defense at Arizona, starting Ryan Lindley. Ryan Lindley, who's that? Oh, you might have remembered him playing for the Cardinals in 2012 against the Seahawks in a game that ended 58-0. Now, to be fair, he came on in relief of John Skelton in that game.
Helter Skelton.
Maybe the worst quarterbacked game in NFL history, unless we talk about another Cardinals game, a 7-6 loss to the Jets that same year, in which Ryan Lindley went 10 for 31. Ryan Lindley.
Is there really no greater option? Why didn't they start that other rookie dude?
Ryan Lindley has 181 career pass attempts, 0 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That is an NFL record for career pass attempts without throwing a touchdown pass.
Is that couldn't they just what if Bruce Arians was like, okay, I need somebody who's got the will to win and the body of me. I'm gonna go get the Pillsbury throw boy from the Arena Football League. Jared Lorenzen, go get him. He would give them a better chance to win this week than Ryan Lindley would.
And of course we have Logan Thomas running some package plays or some. I don't
even know what he does either.
I
don't trust anybody with 2 last names.
Here's the thing: don't assume just because I'm a Seahawks fan that I think the Seahawks won't, because I think the Cardinals can possibly win if they get something from defense and special teams. But man,
would 13-10, you'd hate it, but would 13-10 surprise you where it's a Patrick Peterson? Or Tyrann Mathieu, pick 6, or like fumble recovery.
If they roll up Patrick Peterson for punt returns.
Yeah, a punt return, maybe a blocked kick that leads to a field goal or something, and then like one Hail Mary to Michael Floyd gets caught miraculously, and they kick a field goal.
If the Cardinals score 10 points, first of all, that touchdown is not coming from the offense.
Nope.
And second of all, that'll be more points than 3 of the last 4 opponents have scored.
Mind-blowing. Seattle defense has just been like Helms deep.
6.8 points per game the last 4 games, and that was with the Eagles getting to 14 points thanks to starting one of their possessions on the 16-yard line.
You shall not pass.
No,
the battle of the 2 armies shall take place in Arizona.
Speaking of which, the Arizona defense is an excellent start as well.
At number 4.
At number 4.
I only put Houston in there because they are such ballers at number 2, and I'm figuring that the Patriots, I could swap 3 and 5. We discussed them. Those are the 2 defenses I have in the team going into a fantasy Super Bowl.
The Lions playing at the Bears is an excellent.
Had I made these rankings after the Monday Night Football game, I would have easily swapped the 2 of them, because just what is Ndamukong Suh going to do to Jay Cutler?
Jay Cutler won't care. He'll get sacked. He'll drop the ball. They don't care.
Oh God, is this game over yet or what?
And another behemoth defense going up against a cupcake opponent, Buffalo at Oakland. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, Derek Carr has played pretty well for a rookie quarterback, but we're still looking at the Buffalo defense that had 2 interceptions and 0 touchdowns allowed against Aaron Rodgers last week. And that was their secondary.
Went into Detroit and locked them down a few weeks ago.
Oh man, no. Buffalo is a great start at Oakland, and then KC at Pittsburgh. We're starting to get a little bit okay. They're going to rely on maybe an interception, a couple sacks.
If either of those 2 teams is going to make a difference on defense, it's going to be Kansas City.
And then Miami, which has been faltering a little bit on defense, they get the rookie quarterback Teddy Bridgewater versus Minnesota, so that's a solid play too. And then we start getting a little bit shaky and matchup dependent. Denver at Cincinnati. Of course, you love that pass rush against Andy Dalton, who gets skittish anytime you put pressure on him. Green Bay at Tampa Bay is going to be just dependent on whether the Packers kind of luck into some turnovers, I think.
I know, but you got to be thinking I know my money's worth a little bit more when I bring it from where I live to McCowntown. I love the conversion rate.
I think if we were talking about deep plays, I think that Philadelphia at Washington is a great play, just because that Washington team is so dysfunctional.
I would go with Cincinnati. And even though I know that they feasted on Manziel, and Peyton Manning ain't no Johnny Manziel, actually the only time they ever should be able to be brought up in the same breath is they both play quarterback, they both play in the AFC, and they both have jerseys that sell very well. But I could see Monday night being the case where like he's just on the sideline, frustrated. They're losing 10-6 or whatever. He's got that huge indentation from the helmet that's too tight on his forehead, and he's just sweaty and it's cold outside, and he's frustrated because that's a good defense.
All right.
And I don't know what it is that's causing these problems, but I could see a couple picks.
Okay. Your last three teams are Dallas versus Indianapolis. Andrew Luck has looked shaky the last couple weeks at times. Carolina versus Cleveland. You've got the rookie quarterback after Johnny Manziel's horrific first start.
If anyone's going to make Carolina look like 2013 Carolina, Johnny Football.
And then Pittsburgh versus KC. I'm going to disagree with there. I think that at least the upside of playing the Tennessee Titans versus Jacksonville deserves to be on that list. Ahead of, dude, Pittsburgh is...
What if Bortles doesn't play and it's Chad Henne?
Really?
Sorry. Chad Henne, damn you didn't deserve to be mentioned in the last thing we actually say about rankings in the 2014 season of War Room.
Okay.
And there it is. Those are the rankings.
Yeah.
A year's worth of action. But, wait.
We're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
We got questions. We're going to burn through this page of questions here in, well, we're not going to make it in 5 minutes, but we'll be quick here.
We'll try. I have said so many times, by the way, in this life, I don't know if I'm going to make it in 5 minutes, but we'll be quick. Not I'll be quick, we'll be quick.
At Jetney has a nice succinct one. Sanchez or Wilson. Sanchez, of course, is the juicy matchup at Washington that I like so much. Wilson, Road Warrior, is got a much tougher matchup at Arizona. I think I'd go Sanchez.
Lesser quarterback, better matchup, higher ceiling.
I might regret that come Monday, but I just think that there's a better chance of Wilson only having 11 points.
Monday is a day for regrets and greasy sandwiches.
Yeah,
I
think Sanchez, worst case scenario for Sanchez, 250 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
I'll take it.
That's better than the basement for
180
the floor
yards,
for
1
Russell Wilson.
touchdown, and 0 interceptions, or probably 1 and 1 that Russell Wilson throws.
All right, at Captain Tron, Ravens or Giants D for the rest of the season. It's the final week, man. Don't tell me that you're playing Week 17. So Ravens or Giants D for the rest of the season. Why would you play the Giants D? That makes no sense.
They don't do anything.
You've got the Ravens playing against the Texans starting Case Keenum. Play the Ravens. And then he adds for flex, Martavis Bryant or Jordan Matthews. And I think Jordan Matthews, we can agree, is the play here.
Yeah, especially against Washington, of course.
All right, we're rolling. Lloyd A. Miller says, a tight end conundrum in one game.
Ew.
Kobe Fleener or Jason Witten, Indianapolis at Dallas. No PPR. I'm going to go with Jason Witten.
Who's finding the end zone? Yeah, I'm going to go with Witten.
I think that, yeah.
Because in a non-PPR league, you're just counting yardage. Kobe Fleener may get greater yardage, but Romo to Witten at home is just money in the bank.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Down and Distant says, I have Luck and Brady on my team. Thoughts on starting QB this week in the championship game? First of all, I think you should
Great draft,
hop into the time machine, go back to Week 8 and make a trade for Odell Beckham.
Yeah, or hop into the time machine, go back 8 weeks prior to that, and draft a wide receiver that wouldn't even lead you to ask. Well, there were those first couple of weeks when Andrew Luck carried this guy probably. Now he's been playing Brady more.
And then after that, then go kill Hitler.
Totally. They did that in Inglourious Basterds, though, so we're fine. He's dead.
Oh, we're cool. Okay. I say Tom Brady, and it's matchup based. Again, just because Andrew Luck's been a little bit shaky, some interceptions, some fumbles the last couple weeks, Tom Brady's been Tom Brady, and he's got the Jets, who have an atrocious secondary. Play Tom Brady. I'm assuming Patriots fan of yours.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
At Gundy KG says, should think Murray is out on Sunday and find a plug-and-play guy? First of all,
there's no subject in the sentence.
That's not a complete sentence.
No. He should, you should, I should, we should.
So first of all, Ed Werder, we've got a report from Ed Werder that says DeMarco Murray is probably going to play. Game time decision, though. So go ahead and roll with DeMarco Murray, just in case, though.
You can't play his back. You can't speculate and play his backup thinking that DeMarco's going to carry him, and then kind of does increase Tony Romo's value. But you got to play DeMarco. Yeah,
play DeMarco. If not, pick up Joseph Randall just in case if you can. But yeah, don't worry about it. You're going to be okay.
Speculative plays elsewhere. You're not grabbing Gerhardt. You're not grabbing Sean Green.
No.
You're not grabbing You're not going to start CJ 2K thinking like, hey, remember when the Jets ran for so much against the Patriots? No, stop it. Stop it.
You're okay. Dan Haliua, and Dan, I'm sorry, I actually know Dan, but I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I've never said it before.
Good friends, huh?
We worked out at the same gym. He gets a lot better results than I do.
You get fantasy questions from your gym buddy?
I don't go there anymore. I've gotten lazy and decrepit.
You broke up with your gym buddy?
Well, it's really expensive. Yeah. It was a really expensive gym, and it was getting crowded, and I just couldn't justify the price for what I was getting out of it. But he looks fantastic.
Great.
Dan is a muscular guy. Just
yeah.
Really getting results.
Good job. You know what, Dan? If you lose this week, just go beat that guy up.
Heavy squats, Dan.
Heavy squats.
So Dan's in 4 leagues, 3 finals.
Whoa, good job, Dan.
Oof, nicely done. That's not part of the question. That's a little bit bragging, but still, nice job. Start which tandem? Pats D versus Jets or 49ers versus San Diego? Easy, Pats D.
Yep.
In a deep league, Doug Martin or Martavis Murray? I think it means Martavis Bryant.
I don't know. What if he doesn't?
If you have Martavis
What
Murray,
if he put the two? What if he's combined the two? What if you had like a genetic fantasy league where you can take 2 players and make them into one?
Whew, that's a good one.
Man, I'm gonna tell you what. DeMarco Manning is going to get me a lot of points this week.
Doug Martin, 90-plus yards last week. And a lot of that came on a big run.
Playing Green Bay, they're going to be down a ton.
But Martavis Bryant against a KCD that's tough to throw on.
What if it's Latavius Murray? Oh, he's playing Buffalo. No.
Oh, maybe it means Latavius Murray.
Yeah, well, it's Martavis Murray, so he could be either meaning Latavius Murray or he could be meaning
It's a hard
Martavis.
Question, Dan.
I know. I feel like we're in the greatest name of the year bracket.
If it's Latavius Murray that you're talking about, of the Raiders, they're playing against a very tough defense as well. Who are the Raiders playing?
Bills in Oakland. Man, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one thing we can count on: there being no tickets to Buffalo at Oakland.
Here's another thing we can count on: there's no such person as Martavis Murray.
There needs to be. Someone out there, listen. I need a Martavis Murray.
If you can create a clone from 2 people
in the NFL,
and you go with Martavis Murray, you're really not shooting for the stars, are you?
Why in the world would you not make Aaron Gronkowski? Throws like Rodgers and runs like Gronk?
I thought you were going to say
Aaron Murray.
I was thinking Aaron Hernandez.
Oh God, he would be unstoppable. So then, anytime someone tries to tackle him, he just shoots them. Allegedly.
He's totally going to get off.
Allegedly.
He's totally going to get off. Here's a random side note. The judge has ruled that no Patriots attire can be worn in the courtrum for that trial.
None?
None. Sorry, buddy. I know that you were going to show your support.
Oh, man, how am I going to... I was going to wear a Ben Coates jersey and just be like, you defiled it. The tight end position.
All right, let's finish strong here because we haven't gone strong so far. Joel Fisher, he says, I'm in 2 out of 3 championship games. Woo!
More tweet bragging.
You know what? They're allowed to because they've gotten there. Listen to old hunch and gut, and also my better ideas. Foster versus Baltimore, or Crowell against Carolina, or Blunt versus the Jets.
Foster.
I
Gonna lean on him all day, even though it's a tougher front 7. They're gonna lean on him as long and often as they can.
I cannot disagree. He's the one guy who's just stood head and shoulders above those.
Blunt's
other guys.
gonna have to be 5 yards or less because you can't really run on the Jets nearly the same way that you can even on Baltimore, and Baltimore's got a good run defense. And Crowell, I'm not trusting it. I don't want to trust any Browns again, and we're not going to worry about it in Week 17.
Joel Fisher adds Martavis Bryant or Sammy Watkins, and even though he's banged up, even though he's kind of been off the radar, I'd go Watkins.
Flyer on Watkins.
I take a flyer on Watkins just because, low ceiling of expectations.
Anyone on waivers you would maybe recommend he goes to take a peek for?
Oh, gosh. Dwayne Bowe.
He said he's going to score. Go for it.
I've staked my fantasy reputation on that. I don't feel good about that.
No, you've staked your fantasy reputation on a lot.
I like to live dangerously, Nick.
I know you do. Cole Beasley.
Cole Beasley, there you go.
Cole Beasley. I'll back you on that one.
All right, cool.
I got you. I'll mark you at the table.
Another one, Sanchez or Rivers?
Sanchez.
Yeah, I'm with Sanchez too.
Over Rivers?
I guess
doesn't look good the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, it was at home, which is where he should play better, but it was against the Patriots in Denver in succession. But now it's San Francisco. No one's lighting it up. People are beating them, but no one's lighting it up against them.
Correct. And one more, you greedy MFer. Detroit or Buffalo defense? Oh, take
lucky
a pick.
you.
Take a pick.
Detroit.
I'd go Detroit just because their matchup.
Would
is
you
slightly
like?
better.
Would the tenderloin or the cowboy ribeye? Either way, man, I'm drinking Cabernet and rubbing my belly home.
We've got 3 more questions, then we're out of here. At Giberace, how do I evaluate? You like that?
Liberace's. That's actually what the lyrics to Liberace songs are referred to as.
How do I evaluate high potential but risky wide receivers? Got to start one of Alshon, Josh Gordon, or DeAndre Hopkins. Good players, problems. The biggest problem of those 3 is DeAndre Hopkins, who's got Case Keenum at quarterback. The second biggest is Josh Gordon, who's got Johnny Manziel at quarterback.
And the third biggest.
Alshon, or maybe Jay Cutler at quarterback is a bigger problem.
Oh, called Captain Sniff and Pout.
Captain Sniff and Pout. I would actually go with Josh Gordon just because.
24 turnovers for Jay Cutler. What the frank is wrong with that guy?
I'm going to go just because the Bears are in complete disarray, and the loss of Brandon Marshall is felt, I think, in that offense very much. Johnny Manziel, I'm not going to make any excuses for backing him any of the last couple weeks and being excited about him. I think that's natural to be excited about old Johnny football. I also think that the Panthers are a much, much, much more susceptible defense to a young quarterback than the Cincinnati Bengals, who are excellent against the pass. So I'm going to go with old Josh Gordon. He's also, by the way, the most talented receiver of the bunch.
I'm going DeAndre Hopkins.
What?
Case Keenum had a couple decent games last year. Decent. I didn't
mean,
say great.
The matchup,
Decent.
the matchup is nice. The Ravens' secondary is depleted.
It is.
All
If he's
right.
got time to throw, and he loves the old Case Keenum rollout.
All right. You say Hopkins, I say Gordon. We'll agree to disagree. Alan Mark says, I'm a 5th seed versus a 6th seed in the finals. Not easy to say. Am I crazy for wanting to start Manziel just for the hell of it? Yes.
Yes, don't.
Also, this is my first ever fantasy football league, so thanks for all the advice. Oh, that's not a question. That's a compliment. Knock that off.
Yeah, where do you think you are?
He says, also, I'll just start Matt Ryan. That's the correct move there.
Who do you think you are? I am.
And final question, John_runs. Can we get a Josh Gordon fantasy week 16 breakdown? No, you can't get a breakdown. This is the end of the show and we're running over. Maybe throw in some others you'd rather start over him. No, I'm not going to do that. Josh Gordon fantasy week 16 breakdown against the Panthers. I think he's a fine start. Again, I'm disappointed in Johnny Manziel's first start.
What's he going to do against the blitz? He showed no capacity to handle pressure because, I hate to say this, right now, he's got restrictor plates on. Mike Pettin, I think they've coached him into a corner. And the only way Johnny Manziel is going to make anything happen, including maybe throwing up some sort of Hail Mary, wing ding, or a prayer that Josh Gordon comes down with and points up big time, is when he decides, like, that's it. Just like out of his earpiece, throws it away, and does what he did. He looked like he was
like
trying
Luke at
to
Star
earn,
Wars.
Yeah, honestly, Luke's Manziel.
Lose the targeting system?
Switch off your targeting system. Lose the helmet.
How about me going with the Star Wars reference over you?
I'm so proud.
Yeah.
Force is finally, Matt, the force is strong with this one.
So let's make that a wrap. Been a good season, folks. If you've made your fantasy Super Bowl, congratulations. Just making it that far is great. Good luck this weekend. Make sure you're aware not just of the Thursday night game, but also the 2 Saturday games.
The Double Dad Shopping Spectacular. That's so good. You can wrap. This is awesome. Thank you, Roger Goodell. You gave us 2 games on a Saturday.
Don't ever thank Roger Goodell.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Thank you, football.
Yeah. One other little note before we wrap. You and I are going to try to do not this full studio thing that you see here, but we're going to try to continue on this war room in some way, shape, or form. So please do follow us on Twitter at AhoyNickStevens. Him, I'm over there. Me at Matt Ufford. Stay tuned for news of a potential show that you might be able to perhaps listen to, where we talk about NFL things and life things.
Sure. If
food metaphors.
If this is what you came to, if this is what you came to the Internet Superstore for, and you've purchased, maybe something else is going to show up on the May We Also Recommend list.
Oh, that's a good way. If you happen to find the show through Amazon.
If you bought Ufford and Stevens, you may also like more Ufford and Stevens.
Yeah,
just in different packaging.
I think that'll be good, and I certainly hope that we can do that.
Me too.
We're exploring those options, so stay tuned for news, and good luck. Set your lineups.
What a great season. What a good time. Good luck, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I wish you all the best, and to close on Star Wars, you're all clear, kid. Let's blow this thing and go home.